Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This week's show, we're talking about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Season 2 premiere of Hit Monkey. Great season premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're picking up 4 months after the Season 1 finale. Well, we kind of rewind to the point where Bryce ascends, which that is such a... like, that sucks so much that it's so misleading because you're like, oh, he's ascending, yada yada yada. Having rewatched season 1 again, it is interesting because like Bryce does say like, oh yeah, I made a deal with the devil, and at the time I was like, wait, did he mean that literally? Because he's saying it jokingly, and you can never tell with Bryce whether he's being serious or sincere. So I was like, well, it did seem like, did you shoot like? I was like, but it also seemed like you were serious, and they follow through with it being like, nah, the devil, which I don't know if that's supposed to be Mephisto, probably not, because that's the thing, like, Mephisto's like the devil in the Marvel universe, but there actually is a devil, isn't there? I mean, when you have so many like gods and demigods, and then I think there actually is a god in the Marvel universe. I don't know. Once again, not the most well-versed person on comic book knowledge and stuff like that, so do forgive me. But I don't know, it might not be Mephisto, it might have just actually been the actual devil. I don't know if those are two different entities. I'd assume Mephisto was supposed to be the devil in the MCU, but I mean in the Marvel comics, but maybe him and the devil are two different things. Either way, tangents and all that aside, the moment I was hearing that voice though, I was like, is that Keith David? And lo and behold, it is. You can't help, every time that man talks, you're like, Keith David's got such an amazing voice. You're like, dude, you get so pumped every time you hear Keith David. It's just like, he has such a great voice. You're like, oh, that's so good. And poor Bryce it kind of felt like Supernatural of like, because like Supernatural does that with like its hell situation of like, you know, the thing I think of, spoilers for season 3, which is like well over a decade. But yeah, like Dean being like caught up on all those hooks and stuff. I even love Bryce being like, yo, can you take the one out my asshole? It's like, and he's like burning him because he's like, oh, you thought you'd get some redemption? No, you're beyond redemption. Like all the death and destruction you've caused most of your life, you're gonna rot in hell. Once again, I'm curious, is this going to be I don't know, because he seemed to think like, oh no, like I'm finally moving on. I had to do the right thing. It's like, okay, you did the right thing once. You've done nothing but terrible things every other time. It's like, should you be defined for your worst day? It's like, well, when you've done one good thing out of a lifetime of terrible things, it's like the scales don't balance that way, you know? I was about to say, like, if this is a Lucifer situation where, like, your own guilt sends you to hell, which could be the possibility. He doesn't think he deserves redemption, even though he wants to believe he does, you know? But either way, he told Monkey like, oh, I made a deal. I wasn't paying attention when I signed the contract. It's like, no, he came up with the deal. It's like, right, you don't want me. Like, the fact of the matter is, send me back up. Like, I can work with Monkey. He's too much of a, you know, soft furball. Like, I can get him to stay on the right path, killing killers. And we can send you the worst of the worst. Like, let me do this. He's like, oh, do you have ulterior motives and wanting to go back? He's like, no, babe, come on. I'm doing this for you. Come on. And so, yeah, he came back, and so they're in the Big Apple doing their thing, hunting down people. It's kind of smaller fry. I love that he's like, oh, this guy, don't feel too bad about it. He did some tax evasion. And the murders. I was like, you should have led with that. Why'd you leave with the tax evasion? Like, oh, is that the worst thing he did? But yeah, they're trying to work their way up. And obviously, Monkey's still reeling over the Akiko situation because he has an article by his bed talking about how she's gone missing. I guess after like that last shot of season 1, she's going missing. Obviously, we know she's taken up the mantle of Lady Bullseye, but I'm curious to see what that means for her. I would have thought she would have taken over her uncle's position, but it makes you wonder who is the prime minister right now. Because we find out a little bit about like things in like, specifically, I think Tokyo, but maybe, I mean, it's Japan in general have kind of like gone crazy, but I'm curious to see where has she gone. Maybe she decided to go the other route. It's so interesting because like Ito had warned Haruka like, oh, you don't want to get mixed up with her type of like you know, it's just it's sad that she had the best of intentions, but I think it's also showed like the first season showcases like Akiko had a little darkness in her, and it just takes the right circumstances, or rather wrong circumstances, to push you down. It's gonna be sad because, you know, like this season's, I haven't watched the trailer. I didn't even watch this season on, so I don't know what to full expect. But like eventually Monkey and Akiko are going to clash again, because she's going to blame him for something that's not his fault. It's like, you were all about what he was doing until it was someone that mattered to you. That's the hypocrisy. It's like, oh, you're fine with what the Punisher does until you find out, whoa, you're going after someone I know. It's like, because that's the only family she had left, despite him hurting and being the responsible for so much death and destruction. Yada, yada, yada. We'll talk about that more when it eventually comes up this season. But the sad thing is, like, he's, like, missing her, but she's missing him for a very, very different reason. But they eventually get hit up by Eunice Jones, played by Leslie Jones, who was Bryce's representative. It's like, yeah, she sent me into the situation and got me killed, but she's actually really good at what she does. And then she proceeds to talk about how terrible Bryce was, and he just has to sit there. And that ends up being the major theme of this episode. And a lot of this season is him recognizing how much of a piece of crap he is, because he was in Tokyo, like he was in Japan. No one knows him there. Like, no one ever will know about, because no one in season 1 that never came up about Bryce. I think that's so interesting. Despite being a main character, like, the only person that knows about Bryce is the season 1 finale, Haruka and Akiko like saw him and everything, but you get the point I'm trying to make of, like, he was the one that was he's the literal bullet that set all this in motion. But the fact is that no one on the Japan side knew him. But now we're on the state side of things, where people knew Bryce, and the entire season just people talking. Well, the entire episode you have Eunice, and you also have Leo talking. No, not Leo. It's Carl talking mad crap about him. So. And it just kind of made him realize, because even coming back to his place, he's like, wow, this place is actually, it's my bachelor pad. It's like, actually, it is pretty depressing. It's like, this is all he had. It is sad that it's not until death where you kind of like are able to kind of take, your life and kind of look at it in a snapshot, look at it in hindsight, and realize, like, oh, this is all I had. I had nothing. My life was empty. It's sad and depressing. Like, I was living in the moment, but he was also like drowning his pain with alcohol, like, so he wouldn't have to think about it, so and obviously Bryce is getting more control over his powers, being able to interact with the world. And I love that, like, he's pouring out all of Eunice's alcohol. He's like, don't do that. She's like, that's like $2,000 an ounce. And she's like, I'm sorry. The fact of the matter is, like, fine, I'll take on Monkey as a client. I'll get like a 15%, like, finder's fee for all of this. So I wasn't expecting Haruka to pop up the way she did, just like chilling in Bryce's place. But yeah, we find out what happened post Monkey leaving, and 4 months ago, it's just like shit hit the fan. Like, the criminal underworld has started running even more rampant. The police tried to do what they could, but like everyone at that station got wiped out. Even Ito's partner. It's like, Jesus. So we got introduced to the big bad of this season, who's got the yellow eyes, which I guess it didn't even correlate in my head that this had anything to do with, like, Bonsai Master. But it's like, yeah, we didn't really know enough about him. He was the big bad, but he was kind of taken care of, or took care of himself. But we see, like, okay, well, he had yellow eyes. This person has yellow eyes. Kind of gives me, speaking of, I brought up Supernatural earlier, it reminds me of, like, Yellow Eyes. I always forget, like, Yellow Eyes' real name. I think it was, like, Azazel. That might have been his name, I think. Either way, kind of gave me that vibe. And it seems like this all is in relation to Bonsai Master's sword. Because they did bring up that line of how, Monkey's sword as well as Bonsai Master's sword are siblings. And now it's like, oh, interesting. And now that's coming full circle. But it turns out, there, as Carl says, it's like a facsimile. It's more like a step sibling, the sword that Monkey has. Because I was like, what happens later on and what we've seen does not happen anytime Monkey uses the sword. So I guess, like, it doesn't have the same history. It definitely feels like we're also, like, the supernatural stuff was already there. Obviously, you have Bryce as a ghost and stuff like that, and everything with Bonsai Master, and then Yuki. So, like, it was already there, but it was pretty much kind of mainly a crime drama with some supernatural elements. Now it feels like we're going full mystical this season. Like, it just from the rip, we're going full mystical with Haruka drawing the sword and embodying, because it's supposed to be like, right, when you draw the sword, you're channeling every person that like wielded it before you, and she kind of basically turns into a version of Bonsai Master. And I was wondering, like, could she, like, it almost kind of reminds me, like, video game turn wise, it reminds me of like a Devil Trigger, in a lot of ways. So I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I was wondering, like, could she, just by sheathing the sword again, she's able to go back to normal. But I'm sure the more and more she uses it, the more it's going to end up corrupting her. So I wonder, is she going to keep it the entire season, or will Monkey eventually get it? Like, who's the main antagonist behind this? Who's the person trying to get this sword? I can only assume it's the person who bequeathed it to Bonsai Master in the first place. Or did he steal it from somebody? I'm assuming he received it from somebody, so. Because when Haruka went to go talk to Carl about the blade, by the time she got there, Carl was already dead. It was a trap. And she gets attacked by like some bulletproof tiger. You're like, yo, what the hell? And then, you know, when she does kill it later on, we come back to the crime scene. It's a regular cat. I was like, that's sad. You know, Monkey's going to beat himself up about it. I mean, you can't really do much about it. I mean, also, well, to be fair, he didn't kill it. Haruka did. So it's like, right. So this thing can transform and regular animals into. I would wonder, is it applicable to people too? I mean, this all. I would assume like maybe he's that. It's probably like a. Because I'd assume that's the person responsible at the very end of the episode. They look like they kind of could be like some kind of like evil shaman or something. So I'm assuming like it's probably not going to be humans, even though humans are animals. It probably will just stick to animals, which is probably going to make it hit harder for Monkey, because Monkey doesn't want to kill animals. I mean, doesn't even want, like, he once again has this purpose of being a killer of killers, but even he's like, yeah, that doesn't make me happy. I love that he was opening his heart, pouring his soul out, you know, to Eunice, and she's like, yep, I didn't hear or understand a word you said, but I get the feeling you're looking for a home. And he's looking for something more. And it's just interesting where like Monkey's looking for that, and Bryce is recognizing he never had that. And so he went home, like in his home, he found the box of like his daughter's photos, and we see Iris is older, obviously, all these years. Cause we never specify like how long it's been since he's been gone, but she's like a full-grown adult. We don't know how old she is, but she's she's either late teens or like early 20s, whatever the case may be. And makes you wonder, is her mom still alive? Because Eunice looked for Iris like, I think she said like a year ago or something like that, but Bryce never bothered like going to see her, even though she was so close nearby. But it's like he was too afraid of like, right, I ran out of their lives just to protect them, to make their lives better, but I can never get past watching her from across the street, because, you know, I can't bring my world into hers. You know, eventually it will. But I thought it was like a sweet moment to end the episode on, where like the monkey holds his hand, because it's like, right, they're both like, they're kind of only family they've got for each other, and Monkey understands, like, having lost his family, what this means for Bryce to see his daughter and everything. So just thought that was kind of a beautiful bonding moment between them. I'm curious, are we going to get any cops stateside, just like we got Ito and Haruka last season, to be like our cop representation. Haruka's still there, but I mean, she's kind of not a cop because she has no jurisdiction. Obviously, it's the U.S. But I'm curious, are we going to get any New York-based cops looking into it? I mean, so far, it's like, well, criminals have been dying, and we don't know whether they know about Hit Monkey, but also, like, it was a cat that was found dead. So, obviously, shit's hit the fan to some extent, but, like, you know, we don't know how deep into the Marvel universe this universe is. I mean, we probably won't get too outside, you know, of like, oh, what heroes exist and stuff like that. But it's still the thing of, you know, it's like New York, you know, had plenty of experience with this, like, you know, because it's pseudo present day, so it's like, because yeah, last season was like set during 2023. I don't know if it's transitioned over. No, whenever season 1 came out, it was like 2021 or 2022. It was set then, I think. So it's like, it's only been 4 months. So it's like, but like my point is, it's present enough day that there's a whole bunch of New York-based heroes running around. We just don't know who is established at this point in this continuity. But this, we'll probably never really dive into that, because it's not the point. But still. my point is, like, New York's probably dealt with plenty of crazy, so this might not draw that much attention. I mean, it was enough to draw attention in Japan. To be fair, it's like, regardless of where you're at, it's like a monkey running around swinging a sword and shooting guns. It's going to still be pretty wild, despite the Marvel Universe being what it is. But I'm excited to continue the season, to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. Like I brought up earlier, I have not seen the trailer, nor did I watch this season on thing at the end of the first episode, so I have no idea what to fully expect from this season. I'm excited to find out. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.